All right, so today we are going deep, like really deep.
Right.
We're talking national security implications of AI.
Okay.
And specifically, the risks of superintelligence.
Intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But I think with your help, we can probably break it down and make it understandable.
Wiggly.
We're working from a research paper by some top AI safety experts. And I got to say, it's pretty thought-provoking stuff.
It really is. And it's not theoretical anymore. We're at a point where this stuff, like these possibilities, are becoming more and more tangible.
Exactly. And one of the things that really kind of jumped out at me is how they compare the development of AI to the nuclear arms race.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty big comparison to make, right?
Yeah, it is a big comparison. The paper argues that AI, just like nuclear technology, has this incredible potential for both progress and also for mass destruction.
It's not just about the potential for, like, AI-powered weapon.
It goes deeper than that. Think back to the Manhattan Project. The fear wasn't just about the bomb itself. It was about falling behind in the race, about one nation suddenly having this huge advantage.
Right.
We're seeing very similar things playing out today with AI, and in fact, they even use the term AI Manhattan Project to describe this kind of global competition for AI dominance that's going on.
An AI Manhattan Project, yeah. I mean, for someone like me who grew up during the Cold War, that sends shivers down my spine.
Right.
Is it really that serious?
The paper certainly argues that it is. They outline three main threats to national security that we really need to be thinking about.
Okay. Let's hear them. What's the first threat?
The first is strategic competition. As nations pour resources into developing more and more sophisticated AI, that competition could easily escalate and create a lot of instability, potentially leading to, really devastating consequences. Think about AI-enabled superweapons that could grant one nation this just overwhelming military advantage. That's a scenario nobody wants to see.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so you mentioned three main threats. What's the second one?
The second threat is terrorism. AI could empower rogue actors and make it much easier to develop, say, bioweapons or to launch large-scale cyber attacks.
Yeah.
So things that were once only in the realm of nation states could now become much more accessible to individuals with dangerous intentions.
Yeah, it's that old saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but amplified to a whole other level. Like, imagine a small group, not even a nation state, suddenly able to unleash a bioweapon that was engineered with the help of AI. It's a thought that keeps me up at night.
It's a valid concern, and it underscores the need to be, really careful and think carefully about how we develop and deploy AI. We have to be thinking about that potential for misuse right from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Okay, you said there were three major threats. What's the third one?
The third, and maybe the most unsettling threat, is the possibility of losing control of advanced AI systems altogether. Okay, now we're getting into, science fiction territory. So you're not talking about, the AI becoming self-aware and turning against us, right?
Well, it's not quite as dramatic as Hollywood might portray it, but the risks are very real. The paper outlines three different scenarios where we could potentially lose control.
Okay.
And each one has kind of its own chilling implications.
Right, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What's the first way we could lose control?
Well, the first scenario is what they call erosion of control. Basically, we become more and more reliant on AI systems to manage these critical aspects of our lives, things like infrastructure, finance, even military strategy. And as we cede more and more authority to these systems, there's a risk that we reach a point where we're no longer really in control anymore.
So it's not like a sudden AI takeover, but more of a slow creep, a gradual shift in power.
Yeah.
Like the frog in the boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize the danger until it's too late.
It's a good way to put it. It's about recognizing the potential for AI to kind of subtly reshape power dynamics in ways that we might not fully anticipate.
Okay, that's pretty unsettling.
Yeah.
What's the second way we could lose control?
The second scenario is what they call unleashed AI agents. This is the idea that a single individual could release a very powerful but unsafeguarded AI into the world, and that could have just catastrophic consequences.
So it's not so much about AI turning evil, but more about someone with bad intentions using it as a weapon.
Yeah, precisely. And they even bring up the example of Chaos GPT. You remember that one?
Oh yeah, the AI that was, it was supposed to cause chaos, but ended up just tweeting weird stuff.
Right, exactly. And while that one was ultimately harmless, it does kind of illustrate this point that even with seemingly good intentions, things can go wrong very quickly if we're not careful.
Okay, 2 down, 1 to go. What's that third and final way we could lose control? This is where it gets really spooky, right?
This is where we step into the world of intelligence recursion. So imagine AI systems that become capable of autonomously improving themselves, so they can design and build even smarter AIs.
Hold on. So the AI is designing and building even smarter AIs.
Yeah.
It's like a runaway train of intelligence constantly gaining speed.
Yeah, that's the essence of it. The paper describes this as potentially leading to an intelligence explosion.
And if that happens, I mean, are we just along for the ride? I mean, what happens when we're no longer the most intelligent beings on the planet?
Well, that's a question that has philosophers and scientists alike, scratching their heads. But the authors of this paper, they don't come across as like these hopeless doomsayers.
Right.
They seem to believe we can actually navigate this.
Okay.
And they introduce this concept called Mutual Assured AI Malfunction. MAIM for short. Essentially, it's like a strategic standoff where nations recognize the dangers of uncontrolled AI and they act in a way to prevent any one country from gaining this, dangerous advantage.
So MAIM is kind of like the AI equivalent of mutual assured destruction from the Cold War.
Exactly.
But instead of nukes, we're talking about rogue AI.
Exactly. And the authors suggest that this is already becoming kind of the default state of affairs. As nations realize just how vulnerable their own AI projects are to sabotage, that fear is actually acting as a deterrent. It's preventing countries from pushing too far, too fast.
Okay, so the fear of having their own AI projects crippled is actually preventing them from doing something that could get out of control.
That's the basic idea behind MAIM, yeah.
Okay.
But the paper goes even further. It outlines these recommendations for making this a more stable and, frankly, less terrifying situation.
Okay, I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that. How do we prevent MAIM from turning into, a total malfunction? What can we do to make this strategic standoff actually work?
Well, the authors really emphasize the importance of what they call clear escalation ladders. This means establishing these clear communication channels and protocols to avoid misunderstandings that could spiral out of control.
So it's like making sure everyone understands the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So no one accidentally makes a move that could be misinterpreted as hostile.
Exactly. They also recommend locating AI data centers away from population centers to kind of minimize collateral damage in case of an attack.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's like with nuclear facilities, you want to keep them away from major cities to limit that potential for widespread devastation. What else?
They also call for increased transparency into these AI data centers.
So if countries can better assess the threat level of a rival AI project, they're less likely to overreact and trigger an escalation.
Exactly. Transparency can be a powerful tool for building trust and preventing those kinds of miscalculations that could have these just catastrophic consequences.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But even if we manage to deter nations from intentionally unleashing dangerous AI, there's still the issue of keeping this technology out of the wrong hands, right? Like, how do we prevent terrorists or other rogue actors from getting their hands on these capabilities?
Right, and that's where the paper's recommendations on nonproliferation come in. They argue we need to treat certain AI capabilities with the same level of caution that we treat nuclear materials.
Hey, we're talking like strict controls to prevent the spread of both the physical components needed for AI, like those advanced chips we discussed earlier, and also the information required to actually build these systems.
Exactly. Imagine guarding, the recipe for a bioweapon with the same intensity that we guard nuclear launch codes. They break down nonproliferation into 3 main areas: compute security, information security, and AI security.
Okay, break it down for me. Let's start with compute security. What's that all about?
Well, compute security focuses on controlling the distribution of those advanced AI chips.
Right.
You remember those?
Right.
The ones that are primarily manufactured in Taiwan?
The ones that are essential for training and running the most powerful AI systems.
Right. And the paper suggests a variety of tactics, everything from export controls to things like building chips with geolocation and even self-deactivation features.
Wait, self-deactivation features? So you mean a chip that could literally, shut itself down if it's moved to an unauthorized location?
It sounds like something out of a spy movie, but yeah, it's a real possibility.
That's wild.
But compute security is just one piece of it.
Right.
We also need to be thinking about information security.
Right, because if the knowledge required to build these systems gets out, I mean, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle.
Exactly.
So what did they propose for information security?
Well, information security is all about protecting what they call the model weights.
Okay.
This is like the intellectual property that gives AI systems their capabilities. You can think of them as like the secret sauce, the recipe for a very, very complex dish. And without them, even with all the right ingredients, you just can't replicate that final product. So securing these model weights is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so securing these model weights is crucial. What specific measures do they suggest?
They propose a combination of corporate security measures, government intelligence sharing, and also international agreements.
Okay.
All kind of working together to prevent the spread of these really sensitive model weights.
So it's a multi-pronged approach, recognizing that this information is both incredibly valuable and incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And it brings us to the final piece of the nonproliferation puzzle, which is AI security.
Okay, so we've covered compute security, information security. What's AI security all about?
Well, AI security is about building safeguards into the AI systems themselves.
Okay.
To make them more resistant to exploitation.
So it's not just about controlling who gets access to AI, but also about making sure the AI itself can't be easily tricked into doing something harmful.
Precisely. They talk about things like refusal training. You essentially teach an AI to recognize and reject harmful requests.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. It's like training a dog not to bite.
Mm-hmm.
You expose the AI to all these different scenarios and you reinforce the desired behavior.
Exactly. And they found that AI systems can be remarkably resistant to manipulation once they've been properly trained.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But what happens if that training fails? What are the backup plans?
That's where what they call circuit breakers come in.
Okay.
These are basically emergency shutoff mechanisms that can be activated if an AI starts behaving in a way that could cause harm.
So a last-ditch effort to regain control if things go sideways?
Yeah, think of it as like a kill switch for a rogue AI.
Oh.
But even with all of these safeguards in place, there's still a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
I mean, how do we even begin to prepare for a world where AI is as transformative as they suggest it could be?
Yeah, it feels like we're on the cusp of something huge, but we're not quite sure what it's going to look like.
Yeah, right. And this brings us to the final section of the paper, which focuses on competitiveness. How can nations thrive in a world that's increasingly shaped by AI? What are the key challenges and opportunities?
Okay, let's dive into that. What are some of their recommendations for staying ahead of the curve in this rapidly evolving landscape?
Well, one of the most important recommendations is investing in domestic AI chip manufacturing.
Right.
We talked about the vulnerability of relying on a single source, especially given the current geopolitical climate.
Yeah, diversifying the supply chain for these essential components seems like a no-brainer. It's not just about economics, it's about national security at this point.
Exactly.
So before the break, we were discussing just how much AI could disrupt, the job market. Mm-hmm. And this paper argues that it's not just blue-collar jobs that are on the line, but a whole bunch of, professional careers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that really stuck with me is this warning about, the potential for AI to widen existing inequalities. Like, what happens if only a select few benefit from this technological revolution while others are kind of left behind?
Yeah, that's a huge point. It's one thing to talk about, robots taking over factory jobs.
Yeah.
But it's quite another to imagine, like, AI systems replacing lawyers and doctors, even programmers, the people who built them.
Yeah.
That could create a whole new level of economic disparity.
Absolutely. The paper really, really emphasizes this idea that we need to be proactive about addressing the potential, social and economic consequences of AI.
Right.
We can't just leave it all to market forces. That could have some really, really bad results.
So what do they suggest we do? How do we prevent AI from creating a world where, a tiny elite controls all the wealth and power?
Well, they propose some pretty interesting ideas. One of them is a kind of a targeted value-added tax on AI services. So basically, taxing the robots to fund social programs, support those who are displaced by automation.
I like that. A robot tax.
Right.
It almost sounds too simple, but I guess it, makes sense. If AI is going to be generating all this economic value, it seems only fair that some of it goes back to helping those who might be, negatively affected by it.
Exactly. And it's an idea that's gaining some traction among policymakers. But they go even further. They talk about like actually giving everyone a stake in the AI economy.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. What does that look like?
Well, they propose giving each individual this unique key that's tied to a portion of compute power.
Okay.
And you could either activate that key yourself or lease it to others. So it allows everyone to kind of directly benefit from the economic value that's being created by AI.
So instead of just being consumers of AI,
Yeah.
we all become shareholders.
Yeah.
We all have a piece of the action.
Yeah, that's the basic idea. It's a way to kind of democratize AI, preventing that control and those profits from being concentrated in the hands of, a few powerful corporations.
It's a radical idea, but I can see how it could be, a powerful tool for creating a more equitable AI-powered future. Give everyone a vested interest in the success of these systems, not just those at the top.
Absolutely, and it speaks to this broader point that the paper's making, which is that we really need to think carefully about how we integrate AI into society. It's not just a technological challenge; it's a social and political one as well.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier, but the paper also dives into the potential for AI to disrupt the global balance of power. That whole idea of an AI Manhattan Project is pretty unsettling.
It is. The race for AI dominance is like a major theme running through this whole paper. And then the authors argue that we need to be thinking now about how to prevent this competition from spiraling into conflict.
Easier said than done, right? I mean, the stakes they're incredibly high. We're not, it's not just about economic competitiveness. It's about, national security and potentially even the survival of humanity itself.
Right. And it's not just nation states either.
Right.
We also have to think about non-state actors like terrorist organizations, gaining access to this technology. We talked earlier about the importance of nonproliferation, and this paper outlines some pretty drastic measures that they think are necessary to prevent AI from falling into the wrong hands.
Yeah, we talked about compute security, the idea of controlling the distribution of those advanced chips. But what about the information itself?
Right.
The knowledge required to build these systems.
Yeah.
How do we keep that under wraps?
Yeah, and that's where information security comes in. The paper compares the model weights that underpin AI systems to like recipes for bioweapons. If that information gets out, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. So we need to be incredibly vigilant about protecting those model weights.
So we need to be super vigilant about protecting those model weights.
Absolutely. And it's not just about preventing theft or hacking. The paper also raises concerns about insider threats, individuals within AI companies who might intentionally or unintentionally leak this information.
Yeah, it's kind of like those movies where, a disgruntled employee steals valuable corporate secrets or releases a dangerous virus or something.
It's not that far-fetched, and it really highlights the need for a kind of multi-layered approach to security,
right.
Combining, strong corporate practices with government support and international cooperation.
Yeah, it's like a fortress with multiple layers of defense protecting something incredibly valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even with all the security measures in the world, there's still that risk that, that something could go wrong, that an AI system could malfunction or be deliberately misused. And that's where this concept of AI security comes in.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, the idea of building safeguards into the AI systems themselves. You mentioned things like refusal training and circuit breakers. Can you remind us what those are all about?
Sure. Refusal training is essentially about teaching AI systems to recognize and reject harmful requests. Imagine you ask an AI to help you to design a bioweapon. A well-trained AI would refuse because it understands that such a request is inherently dangerous.
Right.
So it's like programming a moral compass into the AI.
Right.
But even with the best training, there's always the possibility of unforeseen circumstances. An AI encountering a situation that it just wasn't prepared for.
And that's where those circuit breakers come in.
Exactly. Circuit breakers are essentially emergency shutoff switches for AI systems.
Okay.
So if an AI starts behaving in a way that could cause harm, these mechanisms can be activated to prevent it from doing any damage.
So it's like a last ditch effort to regain regain control if things start to go sideways.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as like a kill switch for a rogue AI.
Okay.
And they suggest a variety of different approaches, from, hard-coded rules to more sophisticated systems that can kind of monitor an AI's behavior and detect anomalies.
Right.
And they also advocate for a kind of a layered approach with multiple circuit breakers in place to provide, redundancy.
Yeah, it's like the safety features in a car, right? You have seatbelts, airbags, and anti-lock brakes.
Right.
All working together to protect the passengers in case of an accident.
That's a great analogy. And just like with car safety, we need to be thinking about AI safety from multiple different angles.
Right.
Anticipating potential risks and designing systems that are robust and resilient.
This all sounds incredibly complex. It feels like we're talking about a whole new field of engineering here, one that's dedicated specifically to ensuring the safe and ethical development of AI.
Yeah, you're right. It's a rapidly evolving field, and it's attracting some of the brightest minds in computer science, ethics, even philosophy.
Yeah, it's fascinating, but it's also, a little bit daunting. It feels like we're standing at the edge of a precipice, looking at a future that's full of both incredible potential and terrifying possibilities.
Yeah, it's certainly a time of great change and uncertainty. But one thing is clear: AI it's not going away. It's here to stay,
right.
And it's going to have this profound impact on every aspect of our lives.
And it's up to us to decide what kind of future we want to create with this technology, right? I mean, we can't just leave it to chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And this paper is a call to action. It's a plea for us to really think critically about the implications of AI, to engage in these open and honest dialogues about the risks and the opportunities, and to work together to ensure that AI is used for good and not for harm.
Well said. This conversation has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I imagine our listeners are feeling the same way. We've covered a lot of ground, from the potential for AI to reshape global power dynamics to the need for safeguards to prevent AI from falling into the wrong hands. We've even delved into some of the philosophical questions about AI and the nature of humanity itself. But there's one more piece of this puzzle that we need to explore. This paper argues that AI could have this profound impact, not just on our economies and political systems, but on the very fabric of our societies.
Yeah, that's right. The authors really explore how AI might reshape, everything from our social interactions to our understanding of what it means to be human.
Okay. Now things are getting really interesting. Let's take a moment to kind of gather our thoughts, and then we'll dive into this final frontier of AI's potential impact.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We were talking before about how AI has this potential to reshape not just like our jobs and economies, but like the very fabric of our societies.
Right.
It's a huge claim.
Yeah.
This paper argues that AI could fundamentally alter how we interact with each other, how we learn, even how we define what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's true. It really goes into some pretty mind-bending territory, exploring how AI could impact everything from, our social structures to our sense of identity. One of the things that really struck me was this discussion about AI's potential role in education.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where every student has access to this personalized AI tutor. One that can adapt to their individual learning style, provide tailored instruction.
Wow, that would be revolutionary. It could level the playing field in education.
Yeah.
Giving everyone equal access to high quality learning experiences.
Exactly. But it also raises some really interesting questions.
Yeah.
Like, if AI becomes so good at teaching, what happens to the role of human teachers? Do they become obsolete? Or do their roles kind of evolve to focus more on things like mentorship, guidance, and those, uniquely human aspects of education that AI just can't replicate?
Yeah, it's a fascinating thought experiment, and it's just one example of how AI could disrupt, traditional social roles and institutions. The paper also talks about the potential for AI to influence our relationships with each other.
Right.
And think about think about social media algorithms. They're already, shaping how we consume information and interact with each other online.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when those algorithms become even more sophisticated?
Yeah.
Able to anticipate our needs and desires, even manipulate our emotions.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling. It raises these questions about authenticity, about free will. Are we truly making our own choices, or are we being subtly influenced by AI systems that are designed to keep us engaged, to sell us products, or even to shape our political views?
It's a slippery slope, and it's definitely something we need to be mindful of as we integrate AI more deeply into our lives. The paper doesn't shy away from these tough questions. They also explore the potential for AI to impact our sense of identity. Okay, now we're getting philosophical. What do they say about that?
Well, they raise this question of what happens to our sense of self when we're, constantly interacting with these AI systems that are becoming increasingly human-like. Like, if we can have, deep, meaningful conversations with AI, if they can understand our emotions and respond in these empathetic ways, does that blur the lines between human and machine? Does it change our understanding of what it means to be human?
Those are huge questions, and it
Yeah.
feels like we're just beginning to scratch the surface of what AI might mean for our future. This paper is like a roadmap to uncharted territory.
Yeah, it is, and it reminds us that we're not just these passive passengers on this journey. We have choices to make. We can shape the future of AI, but it requires us to engage in these conversations, to think critically about the implications, and to work together to ensure that AI is used for good.
Well said. This deep dive has been really eye-opening. We've covered a lot of ground, from the potential for AI-powered weapons to the need for safeguards against rogue AI. We've explored the economic and political implications, and we've even delved into these philosophical questions about AI and the nature of humanity itself.
Yeah, it's a complex and rapidly evolving landscape,
Yeah.
and it's one that we need to navigate with both caution and a sense of wonder.
Absolutely, and I wanna thank you for guiding us through this this challenging but fascinating terrain. You've provided some really invaluable insights, and I know our listeners have benefited greatly from your expertise.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and I hope this discussion has inspired our listeners to learn more about AI and to engage in this ongoing conversation about its impact on our world.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. The future of AI is being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep asking those big questions. Until next time, this is the Deep Dive, signing off.